I hope you are fresh enough for going for the next a bit technical talk. Today we are going to talk about Opium and the Dockerization stuff, how to build your automation suite. So starting from myself, I'm more than 10 years working in the industry, and already more than 5 years I'm contributing in the conferences, trying to share my experience. At least I'm trying to do my best. Right now I'm working for the PixArt as a director of quality engineering. For them who doesn't know about PixArt, the first creative storytelling and the photo editing app in the world. So if you never check, you can go ahead and check it. So today we are going to start from the kind of the introduction. Then we will talk about some Opium Docker containers. We will try to run Opium test against real devices through the Dockerized Appium server. We will try to put everything inside the Docker Compose file. We will try to run against the emulators. We'll register in the Selenium Hub, and then I hope that we will have some time for the question and answering. So, why we need this, actually? Don't you have the answer yet? Do you know what number is this? Do you have any assumption? Like 5.30 million unique mobile users in the world. Do you know what number is? People spend their 69% of media time in the mobile phones. And the last impressive number is 52.2% web internet traffic going through the mobile. So it's winning to the PC traffic. So I guess everyone now ready for getting to the mobile testing and the mobile solutions as the trends pushing us. So I know that everyone here heard about the test pyramid, and all of us are bored about it. But let's take a look at this one. Let's say this test pyramid is the top of the main test pyramid for the mobile testing. And this test pyramid basically shows how you should divide your end-to-end mobile testing, at least try to be. So the first part, if you are using the web application, hybrid application, it should go to the browsers. So here you can see that the main part should go to the browsers if you are doing a web application. The next one is the simulators and emulators. So the majority of your tests should be, there should be ability to push to the emulators and the simulators. Then the devices, and then the real production test is on the top. Could be also manual part. So this is some specific for the mobile testing only, and this is only the top of the main pyramid part. And I just make it, I map to the big one to show you. Yeah? So one of the solutions that we can go for the mobile testing is Opium. I believe that at least you heard about the Opium. So Opium is a powerful framework for mobile testing. It supports native and the hybrid applications, so you can also, and the web testing also on the mobile. It's open source, cross-platform, giving us the ability to run against multiple platforms using the same API. So basically, if you are writing the reusable code, you can use exactly the same code to run on both platforms. And it's drive iOS, Android, and Windows. Actually, Opium is also supporting Windows apps, and upcoming they should go for more technologies. So, if we are going about to talk in 2 words about the Opium architecture, so it's coming with a test runner. It's the code base that we are actually running here. And then there is the Opium part with the ADB command, Android development bridge. And there is a connected device to the machine. So actually, when we are talking about Dockerizing, what actually we mean, it's basically this. So we are putting the Opium with the ADB inside the Docker container. And every instance are going separately in a separate Docker container. Okay? So why we need the approach? It's quick and easier to set up for an environment. You are speeding up your test run. The automation is done automatically, the setup, the steps for the setup in an environment. And you can use this approach for both real devices and the emulators. So basically what you need to do to make it work. You run this command, which is creating one Docker container. And inside it's starting the Opium server. If you are using the Mac OS, you will have some trouble to make this work because Mac OS itself doesn't allow you to expose ports to the Docker. So the only way to make it work for the development environment for your Mac OS, you have to go with the virtual box, just create the Docker machine and expose the ports through the virtual box. But this is totally fine for Ubuntu machines and the Linux servers. You can do like very, very easy. You just need to turn the nested visualization on because there is also emulators coming following. Yeah, and when you do this, you will see asking you to allow USB debugging on your real device, which is connected to the machine where you are actually running your Docker container. And then basically, I will show you one video recording which is running the test against the real device through the Docker container where the Appium lives, actually. It's pretty simple. You just run your test pointing to the environment, like the remote driver, and then you're just running your test on the spot. This is the solution that when you want to run on a real device, using Opium server in a Dockerized way. Okay? So when you want to register this Opium server in the Selenium Grid, while you are running the command for the Docker container, you just need to pass several properties, saying that connect to the grid is true. You are giving the Opium host port, Selenium host, and Selenium port. And it automatically, this instance will be registered in the Selenium Grid. Yep. So basically, the command will look like this one. I will share later the presentation. You will have all this information to go through it. So you run this command, you will have the same Opium server registered in the Selenium Grid. To make your life easier, you can also put all the properties that you are using from the command line to the Docker compose file, and in the end, just call Docker compose up, and you will have everything up. I will share the repository in the end, where you can find all these code examples that I developed for this presentation with the Docker compose files. So, I guess you know all about that, like connecting to the phone via Wi-Fi, in case if you have like distance between you and your phone that you are using. So this approach also working in this case. While you are running in via Docker, you can just connect your phone via Wi-Fi and just keep the USB cable. This is useful when you are doing like debugging stuff or the phone is a bit far from you. You're just running this command in sequence, and then you will have the connection between your phone and the local machine working, and you can just execute the ADB commands. It's basically this you are running, and when you do that ADB devices, instead of the device ID, you will see the IP address of the device. So to show this how it works is exactly the same, but in this case, we only have connection with the Wi-Fi. Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's working as supposed. This is not the best way to do for the in terms of the stability, but when you do debugging stuff and you have like distance between like your phones, for example, like located in the server room, you don't want to go there and come. You can just go ahead and do with the Wi-Fi. So let's talk about a bit emulators. So actually, we can also run the emulators inside the Docker container again. So why we should do this? Because running the It runs UI tests for mobile website with the Appium. It's using the last version of the development tool, so every time you don't need to update your ADB tools or Android tools. It's run on Appium, Espresso, Robotium, so any framework you use, you can run it stress test, and also you can simulate sending the SMS. I put the SMS part in this presentation because I'm usually was asked the question how you can simulate sending the SMS in purpose of the testing. So for the advantages of this solution, you have no VNC, so just when you want to see what's happening inside the Docker itself on the emulator, you just going to the web browser and opening the 6080 port with the IP, and you will see everything. You can connect it again to the Selenium Grid. It supports also real devices, so you can also mirror your real device inside the Docker container, and there is the ability to record the videos. I never was using this video recording stuff. The screenshot was always enough for me, but still you have the ability. You can also integrate to the cloud services like Genymotion or SourceLab or BrowserStack, and actually this is open source. If there is anything, you can contribute for it. This Docker container solution that I put in my presentation actually support all of these emulators. So this is the capacity that you can get from it and use one of them. And again, there is just one command run. So you are running this command, and you have the Docker container up. And basically, this is when you are going to the browser, you are going to the IP, and then opening the 6080 with the 6080 port, you see that there is an emulator running inside the Docker container. So actually, we are viewing the Docker inside the Docker container. Yep. So when you want to connect the also real device and have exactly the same screen, with the no VNC, just see the real device screen inside the Docker container, you are going with this solution. You just use this Android real device image, and it will help you actually to connect your real device to the same Docker containers. When you need to, for example, you have the environment and you want to, for the debugging reason, run some ADB commands on that emulators, you just running ADB with the host and then checking the devices, and you will connect it to the ADB running inside the Docker, and you will be totally free to send any command you want to the emulator that is running inside the Docker container. Yep. So about the SMS simulation, do you have this functionality on your applications when you need to receive the SMS and then continue your testing? If you are the one, actually, this could be helpful for you. When you are running the emulators inside the Docker container, then you just copying the authentication code with the first command. So when you have the authentication code copied, you are going to telnet to the Docker machine IP and with 5554 port, which is the ADB port, and then authenticating with the authentication code that you get in the first step, and then you are doing the send, SMS send, and then phone number from which you want to send, and then text. And when you run this command, actually you will pop up the SMS message on your emulator screen. So to check this one is super easy. This is the video recording of the same command run. We have the authentication token. We do the telnet to the local host and 5554, and we connect it to the container, and then we just authenticating with copying the authentication code, and then we are sending anything we want. Like SMS send, we are writing the number from which number we want to send, and we are sending any text we want, any text we want. So when we send this, it will pop up on the screen. So this is some situation that you can actually use in terms of the testing, and this is also could be like doing for the manual test stuff. Yeah. So do you know about Selenium Grid? Yes, we talked already about it. So for to be more collective, I combined all the solutions that I put in this presentation. And right now, the last component is Selenium Grid. So you know that Selenium Grid also could be run with a Docker container. So this is the representation, the high-level representation of the grid. You know that usually Selenium is used for the web app testing, but you can also register your Opium instances to them, and you will have accessibility to the Android devices also. Here you can see that the same grid can hold both browsers and then the real devices or the emulator whenever you will create. So when we just running one more Docker container, and it contains Selenium Grid in it, when we run this command, then we will be accessibility to Grid, which is exposed to 444 port. And right now, we have these 4 main solutions that we can actually combine in one. So we have Opium, Docker, Emulator, and Selenium Grid. Basically, what we're going to do like running the Selenium hub. We will register the real device there, and we will do like one emulator there. And this Docker compose file also you can find in the repository that I will share in the end. So when we do like Docker compose up, and the environment will be like creating all the containers that we need. And here we are done. Now we have a Selenium Grid app. We have the real device container app, and we have the emulator container app. And we see that the 3 containers are up. So when we have all this setup done, we will see that inside the grid, we have registered this Android emulator thing, which means that we can use the URL of this grid to run our automated tested against it. Basically, it looks like this. When you go inside the Docker container, you will see that the Appium server is running inside the Docker container, and you have your emulator there. And when we run the test against Selenium Grid, we will have this. It's installing Opium applications and just running the tests on the spot. Everything here happening inside the Docker container. And yes, and the tests are passing. So basically that's all, and I want to share all the URLs that for the technologies that I was using for this presentation. The last URL is GitHub repository, where you can find all the test code that I was presenting and using here with the all Docker compose files. And feel free to contact me later if you have any questions via email, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Thank you very much. And if we have questions?
Yes, we definitely do. We have a lot of questions. And you have 1 extra minute next to the 5, so let's see the questions. You can see them on the screen.
I did my best to keep time for the questions. Is it possible to Dockerize iOS simulator test with Appium? Unfortunately, no. For the iOS, you only can deal with the iOS machines and connecting your iPhones to the iOS machine. How to integrate SMS sending in the automation? It's the easiest way, and I could suggest you just create the bash script, putting inside your repository, and you just run the bash script in the middle of your tests, and then it will pop up there. So, but I guess if we will think a bit more, we will have better solution for that. OK, next one. How do you deal with the iOS security? Is it works with the jailbreaks iPhones? I never did anything with the jailbroken phones, so we just use iPhones, which are registered as a developer devices in our account, and we just use the ones. Okay, and can we go for one more? Have you tried to go to Grid Router, GGR, instead of Selenium Grid with the Docker? Yes, I did for the web application testing in my previous job. It works fine. Like a year ago, they released also for the emulators for the Android that you can do. I did try to make it work. It was working, but I didn't dig it into much. But I know that the GGR working, the performance is higher than the Selenium Grid, so you can also try that one. Have you experienced any problem or difficulties with the Docker during the build-up maintenance of this situation, of the solution? The only problem that I faced, it was building all this environment in my Mac machine, because for the development I'm using Mac, and the only main issue was exposing the USB port, because for the security reason, macOS is blocking exposing your USBs to the Docker container. But I did a solution with the Docker machine by creating a VirtualBox image with the Linux and make the Docker containers up inside the Linux machine, which worked actually. What if iOS and Android implementation differs in element IDs? So actually, to have a good solution on this, you can go with Patch Factory. And in the Patch Factory, when you're defining the element, you can use two different annotations. One in an Android by, and another is iOS by. So while you are running on Android, it will take the Android ID. While you are running on iOS, it will take automatically the iOS ID. Basically, you are defining two selectors for each OS, and you will have it working for both of them. What is the minimum system requirement? Okay, we did, I tried this solution with a 16 GB of RAM, and I was able to register there for three emulators, but for 3 you can use 16, but if you want more parallel runs, I guess you will need to invest more in the devices. Is it possible to run a test case on multiple Docker containers with a different configuration at the same time? Yes, you can do it. I know the solution, how you can do it with TestNG runner and this solution, so I guess there is also a possibility to do with the other program languages.